this is Toni Wade, the Compassionate Investor. Now, we've been talking about transitional housing, and we're going to spend today talking specifically about how you manage that property. Now, I'm just going to tell you, this topic alone, I could probably spend an entire episode, series on how to do this because it's so deep. It can go in different directions, but my goal in this is to be able to just give you an idea of the basics in managing that we do as it relates to our transitional housing model. Now, as we look at the software, because I like using software personally. If you've got one property, do you need to have software? No, you don't. You can do it in other ways, but the way in which I manage requires a level of electronic ability within the net to help sort of cut on the time it's going to take. Because remember, I've been doing this for 13 years. And I could go back. Let me go back to when we first started. And it's sort of funny when I think about it because I can't believe I did that. But in my first 4-family flat, the way I managed the property, I would go to the property at the top of the month, and we actually used to have these boxes. It's like a mailbox that we would put on the back side of the doors with a lock on it so that people would pay their rents at the or their dues, excuse me, at the top of the month, and then we would go and get that. Now you can imagine at one property, and I had 4 doors, and I had to do that, right? Now, it worked. It was a process I created over time versus going, because we actually used to just go collect it from people, but then we had a way for them to drop it. But think about this for a minute. People watch you, right? And if they know you come at the top of the month picking up cash every month at a building, do you see the risk involved in that? Like, I think about it now to myself, I thank God every day that He kept me through that. But there's so much risk in picking up cash from individuals on a weekly, monthly basis. And we back then used to do it week to week. Oh my gosh, those dues were just, But now I use software to help manage that. And it's fully electronic, like even down to, any individual who basically has cash, they can go make a payment at another location and it automatically hits their account. Like, that's how seamless we've created that. So software is critical to being able to create a seamless process. And I use it not just for collecting our dues, but also managing what we call as the check-in process or the intake process for the program. All of our documents are in there. We've got the I think I have like 13 addendums, you could call them, documents that they're signing off on, just going through in very detail what my expectations are. So this system allows for me to do that. And it makes it electronic so that at any point in time, if they need to share something with me, they're sharing it with me there. So that's why I say we start off with software, because if you don't have software, you're going to have to figure out how you're going to manage that property without it. So how are you going to collect the dues that are owed? How are you going to get the information that they need signed off? Where are you going to store that information? And how are you going to keep that in a system? Are you going to have folders for everybody? Like, you have to think strategically, especially if you have a program. You don't have tenants. You don't have all of that stuff. You have a program because you're transitional housing. So how are you going to keep your documents together that's going to allow you to be able to track where you are with your programming? All that is critical, and having a system like that helps you to be able to do that. So I want to encourage you, as you're thinking through how you're going to manage it, you need to decide, am I going to be electronic, am I going to be paper? Because one way or the other, you need to have something that's going to show and document the journey of the individuals who are with you and be able to put that in writing. Now, I'll also mention, earlier I mentioned that there were specific rules and regulations, and I have a series of documents that we go over, from discussions and details on how to, basically what exactly do your dues cover, what services is that covering for you. We have a breakdown of basically what those dues are and what it specifically covers related to the property and the program. We've got details related to even how you are in the property. Like for instance, if you're in a shared housing environment and there's milk in the refrigerator, well, whose milk is it? Is it yours? Can you drink it? Those are the type of things, because we have things written down specifically on just being respectful of other people. I mean, those are the type of things that we think about. We're very intentional as it relates to the rules and regulations that everyone must follow. They're guidelines that we give individuals, and as it relates to their programming needs. So those are the type of things that we have documented for every individual who is at our property. So by doing that, you want to make sure that you don't run into any issues with how to manage. But the best way that I love to manage that actually cuts down on the issues that we could potentially have is how we communicate with our guests. Now, imagine a texting system that allows for you to be able to communicate with your guests on a regular basis related to those rules and regulations or different things. We actually have such a systematized communication plan where on a weekly, monthly, bi-monthly, quarterly, and annual basis, what are the messaging that we use for individuals. And then we have periodic messages that are specific to a property. Let's say that you have to change the door codes to the properties because someone had moved out. That's how we communicate with everyone, so they're aware when a code has changed. Or let's say that we're getting ready to have a meeting and we're preparing for that meeting. I actually send that information to the guests through that portal, and we actually meet with our guests bi-monthly talking about various things to help keep them on track. Like I said, I have a very systematized way in which we work with our guests, and that is a large part of managing. So hear me, out of everything that we do, from finding the property, setting up the property, doing all of the, getting people in, this is the most critical part, and that's managing. So as I work with my investors, I offer that as a service as well. Some individuals, and because it is so tight, some individuals will say, I would like to utilize you for property management. Then wonderful, because I get to manage the property. And I love doing that. Why? Because I have a systematized way of communicating with guests to keep them informed on how we're going to move in this property and how we're going to move through this program. Without it, you're going to have chaos. So if you're interested in learning more on how we manage properties, then look me up, ToniTWade.com. I'd love to be able to share information with you on how we can partner, how maybe I can help you find a property and we can do the property management. Or maybe you just want us to, just refer people and just manage on just a basic message level. I have several different things that I can offer you if you are interested in hearing more about how we manage our properties. So if you would like to hear more, stay tuned.